We've been talking about Angie's son for how much now? Since the beginning?
Since the beginning of the show.
So, you know, we thought, and with a lot of the things that are coming up and a lot of laws, you know, equal rights laws that are coming up, we thought this would be a really great topic here. Also, a couple months ago, I think it was in the Ohio legislature, there was a young gentleman that testified there for gay rights about his, was it Iowa?
One of the I's and O's.
And he testified in the legislature, and I mean, he was so articulate, talking about his lesbian moms. It was wonderful to see. So we thought it would be great to talk about that here at Qtalk, since we, you know, try to get equal rights and get all of our stuff on. This time around, we have a very interesting, actually two very interesting gentlemen. Our first guest is Mr. John Weltman. He is CEO and founder, this is very hard to say, this is a tongue twister, Circle Surrogacy. Very good?
For listening people.
And which is a surrogacy agency, and which he founded, and it was very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Mr. John Weltman up to the stage. So John, thanks for coming down.
You are really mean. You have me follow the comments. It's hysterical. I have to be up here now?
We're going to have a good time.
You better be funny, John. You're fucked.
There's nothing I can do. I'm not funny.
Boring. You're pretty funny now.
Okay, I'm trying.
Yeah, she was one of the best comics we've ever had. Again, Michelle. Excellent.
Son, and he's the only person in the room who's laughing harder than I was. So I know I'm in a lot of trouble.
See? So John, thanks for coming down. You're actually living in Boston, right?
I do.
So you came down, okay, this is like a hurricane out there.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah, by the way, guys, thank you for coming out tonight, even in this weather. I really appreciate it. But tell us now, give us an overview of Circle Surrogacy.
Okay, So, we're a surrogate parenting
See, you
agency.
are funny. Go ahead.
Not like her. She's really funny. And I'm an old Jew too, so there you go. but I'm not funny. So, we're a surrogate parenting agency. We've been around for almost 16 years. I have two kids myself who are almost 16 and 17, with my husband, who I've been with now for almost 29 years.
Wow.
Oh, please, you have no idea what 29 years with the same person is like. It sucks.
Do you have the remote control
But he's not
vibrator?
here tonight, so I can say mean things about him. He didn't feel like coming.
Yeah.
So sorry.
So don't tell Dad, though.
What are they like?
Don't tell Dad.
Sorry. So we have been helping gay couples, straight couples, singles have kids for 16 years. We're hitting 500 this year, which is really wonderful. And most of that's actually in the last 5 or 6 years, which is really terrific. We are now in 6 continents, 50 countries, literally just kind of exploding with people who want to have kids this way. And it's been wonderful. It's really, as the world has progressed from where I was, one of the first, actually, I think we're the very first gay couple to have 2 children, one from each of us and the same surrogate mom. We're coming years and years later where, you know, you've got Will and Grace, you've got, you know, shows like Glee that got kids kissing together. Modern Family, just amazing stuff. Oh, well, Modern Family, oh my God, Chris Lloyd, who writes Modern Family, and I went to Yale together, and I called him up and I said, I hate your show. I am nothing like that redheaded freak. And my husband, he may look like Cameron, but he's nothing like that. And where do you get our life story? People keep asking me, you wrote my life story. You know, it is not my life story. I just do everything that's in that show. Right.
So why did you start Circle Surrogacy?
Well, because I got dragged in like Godfather 3. I am a corporate litigator. The last thing I wanted to do was family law on earth, because family law was like you know, it was like divorce. It was horrible stuff. I didn't want to do that. And in fact, what happened was I ended up representing the surrogate parenting agency that had helped us have our kids in a malpractice action. We won this big jury trial. It then was appealed. We won this big appeal. It was all over the news. And people started coming from all over the country saying, do surrogacy. I'm like, no, I don't do family law. This is just one little tiny thing, that's all I do. And I do corporate litigation. So then somebody came along, like after I was doing legal work for somebody, saying, I had 2 friends, they both got approved, but I chose a better friend. She'd like to be a surrogate in your program. I'm like, what program? I don't do this. I'm telling the funny story the next day at a cousin's Jewish brunch, and her ex-husband and his new bride called me and said, we've been working with this crappy agency in California. Can you give us your surrogate? I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
So essentially you had no choice.
I had no choice. I was dragged into it. But then when they had the baby, they did this Kunta Kinte bris thing. I've never seen it before. Where they passed the baby up the family line and they wanted me to have it last before them. And I burst into tears. I've been trading money between Wendy's and McDonald's, between Polaroid and Kodak, and all of a sudden I'm helping somebody have a baby. And it was like unbelievably powerful. And I said, I want to do this, but I don't know anything about psychological stuff or medical stuff, so pulling together the right people, you know, led 1 into 4 into 12 into 25 into 50 into 100, and it just keeps going. It's been amazing.
That's fabulous.
So, do you? Is it just surrogacy, or do you also do adoption? Is there a difference in agencies? I mean,
so we do everything, and so most of it's egg donation and surrogacy, but then at the end you're either doing something like a pre-birth order or an adoption to put both dads' names on the birth certificate. You're doing something funky because you've got one guy from France and another one from Denmark living in London, and you've got to work at the laws of every country, so it's crazy.
But actually, last week there was I think there was a ruling
in
that Louisiana that one father could not get on the birth certificate.
So I actually have mixed feelings with the Louisiana decision because they did acknowledge the New York order that gave the dads the right to be it, but they said Louisiana didn't have to put them both on the birth certificate. So what does that mean for full faith and credit? We're treating New York as having the right to give you legal rights to your children, but we don't have to follow that in that. I mean, in my mind, it's just setting things up for the Supreme Court to break the tie between Oklahoma, Utah, Nebraska that unanimously held you absolutely must give full faith and credit to an adoption order from another state, and Louisiana, Alabama, and Texas had said, excuse me, fuck you. So,
exactly.
I think that's gotta be
so is that their only option, though, is to take it to Supreme Court, or can they?
At this point, that's it. That's it. And I think there are a lot of people who feel that it will be taken to the Supreme Court, and it'll be an interesting issue because at the same time, DOMA is coming up, and the whole issue that Vlad is facing with DOMA is that constitutional to say that you can get married in Massachusetts and the federal government doesn't have to recognize it? I had a Canadian couple today who are, don't have any rights in America for the Canadian to stay in America, even though they're married in Canada.
And that's a huge thing.
outrageous. There's no excuse for that.
And that's been going back. Well, first they said yes, then they're going to honor that. Now it's no. It's kind of crazy. But actually, our next guest, who we've had on the show before, who we've had on the show before, it just so happens when he was on the show last, he was just about to give birth. Not him, but close. He is actually an estate lawyer for Albert Chinisi. Yeah, I can never say that. And he is a great friend of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Tony Brown.
Tony Brown!
So,
not showing off my new iPad.
yes. And it is the new iPad, by the way.
Oh, forget the children.
That's the whole point.
That's how we get clients. We give away iPads.
Aww, schmoopy.
So,
that's my husband Gary.
Yeah.
And that's Nicholas, who's 18 months.
And Gary was supposed to be here tonight, actually. Gary was supposed to be here tonight, but Nicholas got sick.
Yes. Welcome to parenting.
Parenting.
There you go.
That's true.
So yeah, he was throwing up all over everything. And no one told me that when babies drink milk and they throw up, it comes up like cottage cheese.
See, it's all
Hey,
over.
have you done projectile vomiting yet?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a treat.
And projectile pooping. I knew I was a dad when that happened.
Yay, baby.
So how old is Nicholas now?
He's 18 months.
18 months.
18 months.
Wow.
And you did CNN? You had a whole show on CNN.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because people would ask us what the hardest part about having a kid was, and it was having a documentary crew with you for 17 months of your life, following you around. It was very interesting, but we're really happy with the way that they told our story.
Yeah.
I wasn't. They mentioned the agency about 22 times, and they never mentioned our name.
He was the agency.
Oh,
This is actually the first time we've ever been on stage together.
I love that.
This man gave me my family.
So
It's pretty awesome.
So how is it, Tony? I mean, it's like you've had you have a little girl, right?
Yes.
So, but this is actually you and Gary are raising Nicholas,
Yes.
and she's with you all the time.
Yes,
So
I'm
how is
a
that?
donor dad to a 6-year-old and to a 4-month-old little girl who lives with her moms, her lesbian moms. But Nicholas lives with us, and it's amazing.
Really?
It's really amazing. It was funny because I was talking to John, and John said, "How old is Nicholas now?" I said, "He's 18 months." He said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I said, "Oh, it's amazing."
14 is worse, and there's one over there.
15.
He's much better now.
There you go.
No, it really is amazing because I think we must have really lucked out. And this part of this, I think, is choosing the right egg donor, choosing the right surrogate. But he's got the
He just
happy
has a
gene.
slow kid.
I don't know. He's got the happy gene. He's just happy. He laughs
Good.
all the
That's
time.
great.
It's
So
wonderful.
how do you go about choosing the egg donor and the surrogate? How does that happen?
For us, we knew that Gary was going to be, my husband was going to be the sperm donor. So I got to choose.
Now, how'd you do that? Did you flip a coin?
No, because I was already a dad. Because I already had the opportunity with Piper. So I really wanted Gary to have this opportunity. So I got to choose the egg donor. So I picked someone who had my ethnic background, who kind of looked a little bit like me. And when we went down to Jacksonville to meet her the first time, we were in our hotel room. She brought her son over. She's a single mom. And we were looking at family photo albums, and Gary and Noah, her son, were bouncing between the two beds in the background, having a blast. So we just automatically kind of hit it off.
You knew.
Yeah, and it was the same way with Shannon, with our surrogate.
And do you help, I'm sorry, Franz, do you help, that's part of your agency too, is that you help them pick an egg donor or decide, see, I would have never thought that, which makes complete sense that you would pick an egg donor that had your traits, because your husband is,
No, we're always looking to try to find the right connection for people. So I've literally had people ask me for the happy gene, which is an amazing thing. People come in and say, well, and what is that? How are we going to find that one? But people want blonde hair, they want blue eyes, sometimes they want, sort of like, I just want a nice person. So it's whatever they're looking for. I want somebody that looks like my husband, whatever.
Right.
So do you you keep the relationship with the surrogate all the way through, and how does that work? I mean,
yeah, it started off with lots of postcards all the time, and now it's sort of graduated to calls maybe once a month.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen them a couple of times since Nicholas was born, and we're seeing them again next month or in June. We're going to go down and visit them.
That's great. So the relationship is going on.
Yeah.
Extended families.
Yeah, that's great. So,
Big family.
Yeah.
So John, this is a question for you. Has there been any situation where you have had a surrogate or a donor, surrogate I guess probably, where if they found out that it was going to an LGBT couple, that they would not do it?
So we have about 50% of our international couples, maybe 20% of our domestics who are heterosexual, and there are surrogates who'd rather work with heterosexual couples, so we would never pass one of those surrogates to our gay couples. We would screen them in the first place and say, wonderful, that's lovely, you feel more comfortable in this situation, or maybe it's because her husband, or church, or whatever it is, that's the reason. So we're going to match you to somebody who would feel more comfortable with that. So I used to find that it was harder to find women who would work with gay men. I actually find it easier now. I think that infertility is so devastating for women, but also for men, having been through years of that many women will say, I don't want to deal with this control stuff of women feeling like, I did everything right and I didn't have a baby, so now I want to control you. Right. And she's this perfect mother who's had no problems at all, so I don't want that control. Right. There's two men like, I don't know how that body works, you just do it for me, and I'll trust you, and I love you, and I'll even remember flowers on your birthday. And that's a really lovely thing to have. So the women can feel like their community will accept it and their husband will accept it. Most of them would rather do it that way.
Right. So Tony, were you in the room when Nicholas was being born?
Unfortunately, the weekend that Nicholas was born, Shannon was going to have a scheduled C-section. So we had planned the whole thing out. We were going down on a Tuesday. Nicholas was going to be born on a Thursday. So the weekend before, we talked to Shannon. She said, I'm doing great. I'm turning my phone off. We're having a final weekend together. You turn your phone off, it'll be great. Well, we turned our phones off. And her water broke. And so she had to have an emergency C-section. So we finally get a call at like 4 in the morning. And she's on her way to the hospital. And it was a 9.5-hour drive to where she lived. So we said, we'll be there 9.5 hours. And so we missed his birth. But we actually got the moment that we met Nicholas on camera in the documentary, which is the most amazing thing to see. So that was kind of nice.
I caught that one. He was purple and really gross.
But you have pictures, right? You do have those.
It was really gross.
Tony has pictures, though.
Yeah. You can see me afterwards.
The video.
You know what? You can go. I'm going to go out in the audience to see if we have any. Oh, look, already. I love it.
Well, I'm telling you, when I was pregnant with both of my kids, it's amazing to carry a child. It's amazing what a female's body will do. And of course, I was very young when I had my son, and of course, and I loved, because I was so young and wasn't, you prepare for a baby, and then all of a sudden they hand you a baby, and you're like, oh my God. And I started breastfeeding, and it was the most beautiful thing for a woman to have a baby, or for anyone to have a baby, but that you can take care of the baby. I mean, it's amazing. And I used to eat, and then lay on my back and watch it move. I mean, the pregnancy itself is a great thing. So I love that that we have surrogates.
But that's
it's an amazing thing that we can do it.
What's so exceptional about this is these women feel so empowered by this. They had children, they love their children, and be able to give this to someone else is the most extraordinarily empowering experience in their lives. And they want it as much as the guys do. We have, maybe we'll see 25, 30 people in a month, and 10 of them will join us. We'll see 200 surrogates to find 10 of them. And so they're vying for that even more than the guys are. They want this dream of doing this for someone.
It's beautiful.
That was the hardest thing, I think, about the pregnancy for us, because she lived so far away from us.
Right.
That we really wanted to be there and be a part of that. And, we made a tape and taped everybody's voice in our families and singing happy birthday and whatever, and sent her speakers to put on her stomach all the free time that she had, during pregnancy. Just because we really felt, we wanted to be a part of that process.
That's good.
We have a question right here.
Who breastfed me? There's actually two. There's one for each of you. First of all, do you deal with HIV positive people, and how do they, adopt or sort it or do their thing? And for you guys, what made you decide to do the surrogate versus adoption?
That's a good question.
There's a lot of gay children out there, younger, older, whatever they are, that are thrown into the curb and nobody wants them. What made you decide one or the other?
Well, he asked me first, so shall I go first? So yes, we work with HIV positive men, and there's a woman named Ann Kiesling who runs a place called Bedford Labs out of Harvard, and she has had well over 100 children through heterosexual couples that were sleeping together anyway, before she began about 2 years ago working with us in one other agency to do HIV positive men. What she requires is that she find 2 semen samples that are not carrying the virus. She's created an assay that looks for the virus. It's very different in the semen than it is in the blood, so that usually men who have no viral load will have 2 out of 3 samples that are fine. She then washes off the sperm, washes off the semen, and then the doctors will do what's called ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, where you inject a single sperm into the egg. So since IVF has never caused transfer of the virus anyway, you're now on top of it adding the fact that you've got no virus in an ejaculate, combined with washing off the semen, combined with injecting. There's no risk. But nevertheless, we're only working with women who've done surrogacy before, for gay men who feel very comfortable understanding that they're going to still need to get tested in 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, even if they're not successful, and without telling their doctors that they're done this with an HIV positive guy, because there's all kinds of confidentiality issues. So yes, and we have had the fastest matching of our HIV positive men of anything, because the moment we find someone who's willing to do this, we just plumb them right on. Instead of it being like 2, 3, 4 months, it's like 1 month, boom, gone. And I've got lots of men who've had children this way.
That's amazing medically that they can do that.
Is that a big risk for women, even though
there's no risk. There's no risk. My biggest issue in doing it was about what life expectancy was for HIV positive, because we will say over 60, we're not so comfortable working with people. And she said, yeah, this isn't even diabetes. I mean, this is like just a chronic ailment, and it's not even at the level of diabetes at this point. She said, just don't worry about that at all. So that's wonderful.
That's amazing.
And we frequently will do an HIV positive man who's partnered with someone who's not HIV positive, and then we'll have one dad at the same time. One will fertilize one set of sperm, the other one set of eggs, the other will fertilize the other half of the egg, and we'll put one of each in. So it works out very nicely, and they can combine them.
That's fantastic.
So back to the other question, how did you decide to go adoption versus surrogacy?
Yeah, you know, we kind of always thought that we would adopt because surrogacy is a fairly expensive venture, and we didn't think it was an option for us. And Gary and I took care of a woman who lived in our building, an older woman who was kind of alone. And when she died, she left us money. And we thought, do we want to have a bigger apartment, or do we want to have a family? And we chose that. And it's interesting because that's the question that we got asked the most, is why didn't you adopt? And at one point we were doing a screening for the documentary with a gay group at Time Warner in Atlanta, and we were in the studio in New York on satellite, and they showed the documentary, and then they had a Q&A afterwards. And one of the gentlemen, one of the members of the gay group, introduced himself as a gay Christian, and he was really offended by the fact that we had a surrogate, that we wanted to have our own biological child. He didn't sort of pose the question like you did. There are certainly a lot of gay and lesbian children out there who've been kicked to the curb. Unfortunately, usually they haven't developed their identity until they're much older. And we really wanted to have an infant. We wanted to have the experience of doing that. But this in the documentary, I don't know if you saw the documentary, Soledad asked us that question, and my husband said, we always thought we were going to adopt, but maybe it is a little bit of ego, wanting to see your own biological offspring out in the world. And he got really, really kind of angry at us. And I asked him if his sister or brother-in-law, who'd been having a problem conceiving for a long time, decided to go with IVF or surrogacy, would you ask them the same question? Would you accept their decision to have their own biological child because they're a heterosexual couple? And it's interesting because it was a stretch for Gary and I also to realize that, wait a minute, we can do this if we wanted to do this. And the real joy, I think, that we've experienced in other people's reactions to our family is that we had to get over our fear of what other people's reactions would be, because everybody's been wonderful to us. Everybody's been accepting. I mean, and we go home to Gary's house in Pennsylvania all the time. We drive through, kind of crazy Pennsylvania, and we stop at, McDonald's, and people will come over and talk to us, about our family, and it's really wonderful. We just had to get over our, kind of protective feelings about it.
That's great. I think we have another question here.
Yeah, it's been really wonderful.
Hi, Tony. My name is Ashley, and I met you last year when CNN and GLAAD had a screening and Q&A for your guys' documentary, which I love. It's very endearing. My question is, do you and your partner have a really close female friend that perhaps maybe like a motherly type figure to your child, like have like a long-term friendship relationship with them?
It's interesting because that was some of the other questions that we got were about denying a maternal influence, and I got to tell you, I'm probably the most maternal gay person you're ever going to meet. My husband's mother calls me mother. And she would, when she would have friends come over to meet the baby, which, by the way, the baby totally changed her life. She was talking about how we were gay and we were married and we were all these things. But after the baby was born, she would have people over and she would introduce me. And then she would say, literally, he's better than a woman. I guess because I took on the mother role. But if you're asking, is there a strong female presence in Nicholas's life? The answer is yes. We have we go home all the time. I have two sisters. Gary has a sister, and we have an incredible nanny who's with him during the day. And she's I think the reason why Nicholas is partly the way he is because she's such a wonderful person.
So it's interesting. John actually brought down his son. His name's Kyle.
Kyle.
So if you want to give him a round of applause. So we have stand down now. So we have a question for you. If there's one thing that you wanted to say to Nicholas, because how old are you now?
I'm 15. And if anything, I probably want to say just there are some people out there who are very, very sick people. They've been in bad environments. Their parents never loved them. They're just sick people, and they're going to try and bring anyone they can down to their level. And what you got to do is keep your chin up, because I mean you can't just let these sick fucks just bother the crap out of you.
He's very passionate about it. Go.
Well said, Kyle.
So what is it like having two dads?
For me, I think it's pretty sweet. Just to be honest, I mean, we can leave the toilet seat up. We can pretty much burp at the table and nobody cares. It's pretty great. I mean, it's just wonderful. There's nothing wrong or different about it. I mean, I can't really say because I haven't had a mother in my life, but it's sweet.
And Kyle.
Thank you so much.
Kyle, what are you doing tomorrow?
Me? I have no clue.
Yes, you do. What are we doing tomorrow night late?
Oh, right. Wait, 1 second. Book of Mormon, right, yeah.
There you go.
My kids, I love musicals. I've seen everything on Broadway, and my kids hate musicals. The last thing they liked was Spamalot. And so they finally said they wanted to see something like, yes, we're all going to New York. I'm so excited. I don't know what to do. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kyle.
Hold on.
Oh, wait.
Every musical known to man, and some only known to monkeys.
You ask him any question, he's aware of it. He can name anything from like a Mormon. He can do anything, but he hates it nevertheless.
So, I mean,
Franz, I'm sorry. I just wanted to share a tiny little thing. When I went on The Apprentice, I know some of you know that. Oh, thank you. But before
you want Donald Trump to be our next president?
Yeah. But they do all this psychological testing and screening of you before you go on. And the psychiatrist, when he tested me, I was divorced when my children were 5 and 2, the little boy and girl. And when they tested me, I tested very high in the masculine area. And I was like, well, wait, I don't know what you mean. But the psychiatrist said, you know, when you are in an environment where you're doing both jobs, you take on the role. It's just a natural thing that your maternal instinct comes out because it's the void that needs to be filled or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I actually feel pretty strongly about this, and the question actually disturbs me because we had a lot of lesbians who were growing up who kept telling me that I didn't know how to parent because I was a man, and I was like, you fools! But I bought a present for my son for Hanukkah, and it was this book called What Daddies Do Best. And he opened it up and it said, what mommies do best. And I was like, shit, I took the wrong book. But actually it wasn't. It was the right thing book, and one way it said what mommies do best, and the other way it said what daddies do best. And it was like, daddies teach you how to ride a bike. Mommies teach you how to ride a bike. Daddies tuck you in at night. Mommies tuck you in at night. And the truth is, there's nothing a man can't do that a woman can do except breastfeed and give birth. And with surrogacy, you don't breastfeed, and you have someone else give birth, and then that's super straight or gay couples. And there's nothing we can't do that they can do. So my other son cared enormously about having women in his life. Kyle has never cared at all. He'd much rather burp and fart and leave the toilet seat up. Really would.
So Tony, what advice would you give for whether it be a lesbian or a gay couple or any of that really wants to do and adopt or surrogate or whatever it is?
I would say do it. Yeah. I think for a long time, certainly for people of my generation, we didn't really think it was an option to be parents, And it's open not only my husband's and my eyes up, but it's opened our family's eyes up. It's opened everyone that we know. I think of all the we have a lot of lesbian friends who have kids, but not a lot of male friends who have kids, and they're all part of his life now. And it's the most wonderful thing in the world. And it's interesting because Soledad asks us in the documentary, is this like the most mainstream thing you could do? You guys are like gay activists who want to have a family, but it's like the most natural thing. It was the next step, and now after 18 months, I can't remember what my life was like before Nicholas.
It was very interesting because a couple of weeks ago,
I like to be like what it was before Nicholas.
Sorry. It was interesting. Boy George a couple of weeks ago was actually trying to beat that down for gay people trying to be in the mainstream. It's not really being in the mainstream; it's just being ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's being human. The instinct to parent is it transcends orientation. It's
the most wonderful,
nurture.
Most wonderful thing.
So John, what advice would you give on what you're a parent? Well, we got that side, but
I'm a parent of teenagers, so be careful.
There you go.
That's
so what advice would you give as far as finding surrogate or a good agency besides coming to yours?
Come to ours. I think that you have to decide, most importantly, how you feel about kids. It's a dramatic life change. It's completely, your life is gone. And you really need to really love and want to raise kids. Because I think in my world, it's the greatest thing I've ever done. It will always be the greatest thing I ever did, and I adore it. But secondly, then you have to ask yourself, how do you feel about a genetic child? Is that important to you? But also at the same time, how do you feel about a situation in which everyone feels positive and you're a part of the whole process and you get to make choices that involve the rest of the life of this child and be there from the very beginning and have that impact? Is that right for you? Or is bringing a child in the world, helping a child along that might not otherwise have that, is right for you? The adoption surrogacy choice. And then when choosing between agencies,
there's lots of information on there. We have interviews with surrogates, with dads. We have links to some of Gary and Tony's stuff. We have stuff that I've done on the moral maze in Britain and in French on TF1. We have all kinds of things, and it's a lot of information on there.
And non-HIV positive men work together.
Are there donors that look like they might be right for you? Sort of big questions, but we're available for consultations. We come to New York regularly.
We'll have that on our Qtalk.tv, also our website.
So it really comes down to with parenting. I mean, we have the same concerns. We want our children to grow up healthy. We want them to be safe. So John, being able to kind of get that across to our opponents I think is very important. So, I mean, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. Thank you so much for coming on the show and really talking about this. So anytime either one of you, both of you together, Gary, hopefully we get on the show. You guys want to come back?
Also, the documentary is going to re-air again in Gay Pride.
Very cool.
On CNN.
It's beautiful.
And I want to say thank you to Tony, because what he did in allowing that into his life is very important for so many people, and there's so many people who've seen that, and it's so positive in so many ways. It's really just a terrific thing. Excellent. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's please thank Mr. John Weltman and Tony Brown. Thanks for coming down, guys.
Thank you.
And John, you are funny.
Yes, John, you're funny. Oh wait, let me get my notes.
So this was great, guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, it warms my heart.
I love it.
Parenthood. It was great. I loved Parenthood. And you're always a parent, too. And the hardest part is when they go away. Okay. It's true.
If they go away.
They do. They grow up and live their life, and it's terrible. They do always come back and need money. So.
Qtalk's for you. Let us talk.